Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of Clear Our Path podcast. My name is Daniel Dzikowski, and I am joined by my most amazing guests, Bilyana Georgieva. Okay, I know I've known you a long time, Bilyana. Is it Georgieva? Tell me how you pronounce it.
Close. It's like Georgieva. Don't worry, tongue twister. Like George is fine.
Okay, all right. So this podcast is all about letting go, about clearing the path, clearing our path to leading a better life through the process of getting in touch with our emotions and releasing them. And we're going to listen to many amazing guests. They're going to share their stories about what happened to them when they let go of what was inside of them, whether it's their thoughts, their beliefs, their emotions. And we're going to go deep into this. And I hope every single one of my listeners is going to get immense benefit from the knowledge our guests will bring. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you again, Bilyana. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we've known each other. I don't know how many years now? Six.
I stopped counting them after year 5. But usually it's like a long time.
Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you watching or listening right now. Sorry, there was some kind of like weird noise right now. I think we met 2019. Hello to all of you. I'm Bilyana Georgieva, and I've got, I don't know, what people say about them. Like usually they say like what they did, what they work, but that's just boring, to be honest. So I'm a woman who went through 3 near-death experiences, a lot of jobs, changed 4 different countries, started a very conscious upgrade journey in 2014, as before that was always, like awakening path, which is amazing. But since 2014 is a very awakening, consciously doing it. And I never stop learning. Still, every day I learn something new. Every time when I speak with you, Daniel, I was like, I learned something new, and then I need a few days to process what I learned. So let's see what it's gonna be today.
Yeah. But usually I'm the one on your podcast, aren't I? You're interviewing me, but now I want everyone to really get to understand you and your journey. And so you said you've been on it since 2014. So is this the kind of sort of the awakening to a deeper, more profound reality that you had in 2014? Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Sure. Yeah. As every one of us, when we look back and we connect all the dots, we realize that journey it's never like it started this time. It started when we were born, right? I had 2 really big burnouts before 2014. And that was a time when I started looking after myself and my mental health, right? So I had to really learn how to be something what before that I thought this is selfishness, and I actually have to change completely my mind to be like, that's not being selfish, that is a self-care. But in 2014 I was living in Monaco. I was working there for 3 years, and I was a transformation director responsible to transform completely all the digital and business processes for one of the biggest oil and gas company in the world. And that was heavy, I can tell. Like I literally slept 2 hours, 3 hours, like the maximum 4 hours every day. Together with my team, it was really hectic on all of us. But when you don't sleep enough, it's just at some point your body shuts down. And that's what happened with me. I left the company, and when I left, I realized that I was mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted completely. And I realized that if I didn't leave, I would totally die, because it was way too much on my body and my mental life, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left, I slept for 8 months constantly, literally constantly, because it wasn't just like those like 4 hours to 2 hours sleep for what is it, 2011 to 2014 is 3 years. But before that, I didn't sleep that much because of work and because of traveling around the world. I was sleeping like something around 6 hours maximum, where the normal is 8. And I can tell, like, you can compensate everything in our life with something else except sleep. Sleep can be only compensated with sleep. So when I left that company in Monaco, I moved to Nice, and I would wake up in the morning, sleep, like have a breakfast. And I'm not a breakfast person. I just didn't know what time it is of the day. I just wake up and I'm hungry, so therefore I eat. And then I would literally sit on the couch and fall asleep within 15 minutes. And then I would sleep on the couch till lunchtime. At that point, my fiance would cook for me, like for both of us, lunch. I would wake up, have lunch with him, and then go back on the couch and sleep till the evening. I would get up from the couch, eat for dinner, and go in bed. And that was for 8 months. It was literally, I just didn't know what day it is, and I didn't care pretty much. I didn't know what time of the day is. I just needed to balance out. And when at some point my body was like, okay, now you can start going out and have a little bit of social life. And I, if you've been to Nice, you know that there is a very long Promenade des Anglais, which is the boulevard around the beach, which is 9 kilometers long. So I started walking on around the water, and the water has really amazing healing abilities on us. And then at some point I met my American friend Melanie. At that point she was studying for being a life coach, and she needed a guinea pig. And I was like, I mean, like, I didn't even know what is life coaching, honestly. I was like, I kind of sense that she's asking some kind of like life questions, and I said I'm in. And then I was like, what did I sign in for? Like, I'm not quite sure even. So we start walking every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturdays, 21 kilometers to the closest one, Villefranche-sur-Mer, and back to Nice, which is about 3 hours and a half. And that was my going out of the house. But every time when I was going back in, I was, either spending a little bit of time with my fiance and then sleep again. So it took me even longer time after this to rebuild basically my physical health.
So was it really just a severe burnout that you were experiencing from your work, like just due to the sheer intensity of the working hours and everything that went along with it?
Try to not sleep for 3 years and just sleep for 2 hours. It's exhausting. Like,
no, thank you.
Exactly. But on that journey, to go back to your question, and sorry for being so long, explaining it, but when we were walking those walks with Melanie, she would ask questions, which was, I didn't know the answers. At some point, I literally, it was like, it felt like my value system disappeared completely. And I was like, I would have only my intuition, but my value system was really questioned by her. And I'll give you examples. She would say, like, superstition beliefs. Like why we believe that if you open the umbrella to dry from the rain, if you open it at home, it's going to be bad luck. This is just stupidity, right? But we start going from literally, we had one day we were giggling the whole way during our walk for 3.5 hours, and we were coming up with more and more beliefs like this. Like if a black cat crosses your path in front of you, this is also bad luck. Like definitely it's a bad luck. And then we're thinking like where that comes from, right? It's not the action that the black cat is crossing in front of you. It's actually our beliefs. But then that turns into a deeper conversation. What are our beliefs and what kind of beliefs we allow in our value system to live? And we don't even question anymore. We just take it as granted because someone else put them in our mind. Could be our parents, could be our, in kindergarten, in school, in society and all that. And I'm not blaming anyone. It's just how we were raised. And that was that start of my very conscious journey as of what do I want to believe? What do I want to allow to exist in my value system? And when I was going through so many different beliefs in all these months, I would totally align it with my intuition. And then I start believing completely my intuition. Of course, I was still on the process at the beginning, like, why do I believe that? Why do I think that this is this way and it's not different way? At some point, I start stopping asking why, because you don't, like intuition, the way how you can explain intuition is you know what you know and you cannot explain how you know it and where you know it from. You just know that this is the truth, right? And this is our intuition. So that was that conscious beginning of that journey, which never stopped.
So round about that time, that's when you first started to see that you had these belief systems that were sort of running your life, that were programs that were influencing every aspect of your life. And then you also, through seeing that, you started questioning them. And you did the understanding that it's important to change those beliefs come immediately, or is that something that you had to learn through your friend?
That is a very spot on question. I'll tell you, the whole process was painful. Like I can only describe it as painful, because my friend Melanie, as a life coach, studying as a life coach at that point, she would listen to me and then literally repeat my words, word by word. And I hated her and I loved her, and I would totally express that, right? Like at some point, as we speak, and she would be like literally like turn around, looks at me, and she would be repeating word by word. And I hear what I said. I'm like, this is just bullshit, like complete stupidity, what I believed for a very long time. But that kind of repeating back to me helped me to see myself like in a mirror, right? I wanted to share something. It was a lot more the whole process of realizing what I've been going through in my life, connecting all the different dots, and then realizing all these different beliefs, and then asking and questioning myself, do I want that? Do I want that in my life? Do I want like what do I want from now on to happen in my life?
So can you share some of those, or maybe a couple of those beliefs that really you suddenly saw really clearly, and then you questioned the validity of them and whether you really wanted, or was that something that's too far back in the past?
I can't, like, nothing is in my mind, but let me just walk through this. We often would have that conversation where Melanie would say, I did that in my life and that was the result. Why do you want to do the same mistake? And I usually say the way how I process information is through my own experience. If I don't experience and I don't do that mistake, I don't learn. And sometimes I do the same mistake over and over and over until I'm so sick of this that I actually sit down, process that this was a mistake, and I've been repeating it constantly. And then I have that conscious decision to be like, okay, I'm no longer going to take the same actions, because same actions leads to the same results. I'm going to change completely. And one day, I remember that so well. She turned around. She was like, why don't you learn from different people's experience and mistakes instead of wasting your lifetime to learn the same mistakes? And I said, I just can't. I'm like, I really need to experience that shit and be able to process it after this, being hurt emotionally. And now I know one of them was, that was a big one. My fiance at that point, she was constantly telling me what kind of things he's doing in our relationship. And at the beginning, I literally, the way how I process information is like, I reject that. I say that it's like he's not doing this kind of stuff. It was around money, basically, because I was paying all the bills in Monaco. I was paying all the bills in Nice. And he didn't have like a job. He was working on projects, but it was like money was like in and out, and it wasn't like every month. So for me, what I was explaining to her, it wasn't a problem for me to pay any bills. And I don't expect in a relationship, that it has to be the man to pay all the bills. Like if I have money, then I just pay the rent, pay the bills, and it's not a problem. And she was explaining to me that she did have such kind of relationship. And it turned out that at some point she really, like the man kind of next to her were always expecting those bills to be paid by her. And it was, for him, was normal, where for her, at some point, she turned around and she didn't have the money to pay the rent and the bills. And she asked him to pay the rent and the bills. And it was like a massive argue, right? And I was like, listen, I hear you. I realize what you say. I absolutely, totally understand the experience. And I understand that you make it as normal for the relationship. I'm sure I'm doing it exactly the same shit right now in my life, and I still gonna do it the same way, because it's just the way how I feel it. Like for me, I start talking about unconditional love. Like for me, if really, like for me, a love in one relationship is not connected to some kind of conditions, and therefore, if I have something as resources, in this case, money, I don't need to expect, I don't need to put this kind of condition towards my partner to be like, oh, we need to split 50-50. What happened was literally 5 months later, after these conversations, of her putting, literally as a life coach, putting the reality in front of my face. 5 months later, I start seeing, because I was still like sleeping pretty much most of the time and going out with her just for walks. At some point, I had that conversation with my fiance, like, can we do something about that? Because we need to start splitting the bills 50-50 or something, because these money are, disappearing quite quickly. It was a massive argument. And I was like, whoa, where that came from, like where, like, okay. And I had to sit and process and be between my unconditional love, changing circumstances, expectations in a relationship. What do I really, want in that relationship? And do I want to continue this relationship? And then next day, we went again for a walk, and I was explaining the whole argument and everything. She was like, I told you. Like, that was it. I told you. I've been telling you this for 5 months. And I was like, listen, the reason why I'm explaining is because when I when I word everything, like all my thoughts as words, and I at that point, I learned how to listen to what I'm saying, not just speaking, but also listening to my words. And I was like, I need to process that by wording it and listening back to me of what you teach me. And she was just like laughing. Honestly, she was laughing, and her laugh, I don't take it as offensive. I was like, thanks a lot. I mean, that makes my day, right? Because I'm seeing my whole shit basically back to me. And I was like, just listen, like, can we just have a walk where I just blurt out whatever it is there, and at the end she was like, you still don't learn from my mistakes, and you have to go through all these mistakes. And she was like, okay, so what do you want to do? I mean, he's your fiance. I was like, well, I will still marry him because I love him. And if I need to put conditions in our relationship, so be it, but I kind of feel that this is something I need to go through. She was pissed off, I can tell. She was like, I'm your friend and I love it dearly. It's not just like being a life coach and, putting all this on you. But she was like, I don't understand why you want to hurt yourself so much to not just be in a relationship, but now marry him, because that's completely different level, right? She was like, you still don't realize fully that what you teach him, what you taught him in the past is going to be expectation for the future. This is just one argument out of many in the future, So yeah, I did marry him, and then at some point happily divorced him because of this.
Did you happily marry him? No.
I happily marry him. I love him to bits. I have huge respect. I'm so grateful for him for all the lessons he taught me in our marriage and in our relationship. Before that, we were together 6 years altogether. And I literally, I can't have any other feelings than gratitude, because everything what I had as going through the whole relationship, from love side, sex side, money side, friendship and relationship and partnership side, in all the different levels, it was amazing. And he was one of the men who also taught me to step into my female energy. So I can be only grateful for that. Yeah. And for all the lessons, like I was explaining the money lesson there. By the way, just to finish that story, if you want, that lesson, it was going on till the end of our relationship, literally, like how we're gonna do everything around bills and who is paying the bills. I'm like, I cannot pay all the bills all the time. It's just like it's not because I'm a woman or something. I just I feel that's a burden right now. And he was like, so it wasn't a problem like 3 years ago, but now it's a problem. I'm like, well, it is right now. It's a problem. End of the story.
I think that's fair enough. You have to say what is true for you, right? In any relationship. So, okay. So moving on, this, podcast is all about letting go.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I mean, you can relate to, I want you to share with any letting go episode that you've had in your life. I know you've obviously, you can let go of something external to you. You can let go of a house, you can let go of a relationship, but we're always about the internal letting go. So the emotional energy, your thoughts, the belief systems, and you've touched a little bit on that. So what for you was probably the most powerful letting go episode that you've ever experienced in your life?
Gee, pick one.
Only one. Yeah. And more specifically as well, is how did that impact your life? How did that affect you in the moment and you going forward?
Okay, I'm gonna blurt out all the different letting goes, and you can pick one and we can dive deep. Is that okay?
Yeah. Go for it.
Like literally, that's why I was like, pick one. To let go of a broken relationship. letting go that I don't have money to pay rent. Recently, letting go that I can't live in the country I love, which is England, and I had to go back to my own country. That was a letting go, huge letting go process. Letting go of not working in the corporate world and moving to entrepreneurship, letting go of my entrepreneurship and moving to energy work. So which one you want to pick?
Let's go of the corporate one, where you
Oh,
let go of the
okay.
corporate life
Yeah.
in order to experience being
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. So
Yeah. That was a long one. And you're part of it without even knowing it. I never shared that, by the way. So I have been working in corporate world since 2000, and I pretty much left it 2019. So that's 19 years. For 19 years, I literally had the best life ever from all perspectives. I literally lived the dream of everyone, which was also my dream, to travel around the world, to see the world. I worked in 21 different industries. I had more than 250 projects, and companies around the world. It's literally like going from one project to another, doing simultaneously different projects. And because of that work, I lived in London, I lived in Monaco, I lived in Nice, I lived in Mauritius. I was in Dublin for 1 year, in Brussels for 6 months, in Kuala Lumpur, in Houston, for work specifically, like living there for a little bit. In Aberdeen. Name it, just name it. It's just like a lot of different countries, and when my intuition started telling me that I need to let go of the corporate world and start moving to entrepreneurship and learning social media, learning to be a professional speaker, it didn't make sense for me. It was the internal battle between following what my intuition is saying, go with leave that corporate job and go with what I will tell you step by step, because when you in such kind of for me, I couldn't see the big picture. I couldn't understand what exactly is asking me. And then that internal battle, but I need to leave my safe job, which is giving me like really good payment, really good money every month, allowing me to have like a really good lifestyle in London. It was that internal battle. So
it was a battle between what your heart was saying and perhaps some sort of survival instinct.
It was more of a battle how what kind of living I'm gonna make to be able to keep paying my bills and having the team what I wanted to hire if I don't have incomes. Like how to make that entrepreneurship balance between, okay, I can't do everything by myself. I need to delegate to other people some of the work if I want that new business to start. And I didn't know that new business what will be. So I start training people for project managers to do project management and digital transformations and all that. At the beginning, that was the first business right after corporate. It was just that constant fear. Am I gonna have enough money at the end of the month to pay my team and to pay, all the bills, and to still have some kind of very lower down lifestyle compared to corporate, but still have like a good life and be able to buy the food I like and all that. So that was the internal battle around.
Okay. So how did you deal with the fear? How were you able to, go beyond it? Because obviously you did.
on a daily basis. I had days when I was ignoring it and I could focus, like I would put my attention on what I need to do today, like literally what tasks I need to do. And in the evening when I'm done, I would go back into that fear mode, like, oh my God, I don't see incomes, how I'm gonna pay my team, how I'm gonna make it. So I would have days when I wouldn't be able to do any kind of work because that fear was constant, but I would constantly sit in that fear and process it. And I have to say, at that point, I already knew you, and I've seen you on stage. I was digesting everything what you were teaching us from stage, and I hate you as a like complete idol and someone to learn from, and like don't run away from those fears. Just sit with them and see what they're gonna tell you, and process them. So thank you so much for that. I never actually shared that so far with you, but it was you helped me a lot for that process. Even just not even working one-to-one with you at that point. It was just like watching you on stage and like, I need to try that. Like I would at some point I would literally try everything just to have that piece of calmness and peace in my mind,
Yeah,
But,
I mean, I think for those people that aren't aware of what it means to actually sit with your fear, it's like as we both know, every fear that you sort of embrace and that you sit with consciously allows it to dissolve to a state of completion, to lessen, so it's no longer it doesn't impact your life so much. And
I can tell you how I now process fear, because it's very different as well. Like it kind of evolved with time. At the beginning, I would see it and I would feel very uncomfortable, like extremely uncomfortable with like fear of like around how I'll make it for like money wise for that month, which then process into like okay, is that fear because I don't trust the universe that is going to provide to me? Like again, thank to you, like where that comes from. Is it what is based on like most probably fear and trust? I was like, no, it's not trust, it's something else. It's something else. So I had to constantly ask myself where that fear comes from. So I was questioning myself and questioning the fear and kept feeling it and questioning. Now I do it in a different way. Like, no, sorry, I'm gonna step back. Like whatever I was doing, it was going constantly towards self-worth. Like, am I worthy to receive? Am I worthy to do that work and keep believing in something that no one around believes, but it's only me believing that that's going to be successful? Obviously, and my team at some point, like when I had the team, they all also believed. But it was coming down to self-worth. Now I process fear in a very different way. I just sit down, not even in a meditation, but like in a very quiet place. And I check where that fear is. It's usually around the second and the third energy center, around your stomach. And I just take it outside my body, and I look at it and I speak, and I had a conversation, but the conversation as with a friend. A very different energy here with a friend, like, okay, you're here obviously to protect me from something. Show me, just show me, what do you want to protect me from? Like I don't ask where you come from. I was like, just show me, like you're evolving. It's most of the time I realize that it is this internal chattery mind, like creating the worst case scenario, what we always do. And I'm like, do I need that worst case scenario? Poop, not really. And I take it out of my system. So yeah, sometimes I'm like, okay, I can't take you out of my system. You can go back if you want. That's not a problem, but it's not going to stop me of doing what I want.
So you kind of bonding with the fear. It's becoming your friend. You're creating a friend from your fear, and you're kind of having a normal conversation as you would do with a friend, and through that insight can come. And if your friend needs to go, they will go, right? And if they need to stay, they'll stay. And either way, you're okay.
Yeah, quite often it leaves, or it like shrinks to so small that it's like, oh, I don't have any more powers over her.
Yeah.
And then it shrinks and doesn't come for days. Sometimes you just say the same, and I'm like, okay, I respect you. If you want to live here, fine. I mean, okay. But it's about how to not give the power to my fear, and to give the power to my intuition. That is that trust, because intuition is the trust that who I am and what is coming is much bigger than me. Right?
Right. Okay. And I think what you describe is amazing, because people process things differently. And ultimately, you have to invite, well, you don't have to, you can invite fear as your friend, and you can treat it as a friend. Sometimes you can also treat it as a kid, as a, you know, the kind of inner child work, where you invite fear as your as a little child. They can stay as long as they want.
You know, can I share, like, I'm listening, and you know what picture I've got in my mind? Imagine you've got a man in a bank who's robbing the bank and threatening people with their life. And then you've got the FBI team coming, you know, and like releasing the people out of the bank. How you call them?
Freeing the hostages.
Freeing the hostages, thank you. Surely whoever is from the FBI team, is he afraid of being killed? Most probably, right? That's his job, obviously, and he's trained to not give the fear, to feed the fear, but to do his job at that point, like at the point of start talking with the captain of the, you know, the hostages, right? But what they do, like what he does, he doesn't go with like, oh my God, this is like a very fearful situation because the life of so many people is on his hands, right? He's just dealing with the fear, like, and that fear is that person who is keeping the hostages. Let's just deal with that person. Let's just make a deal, see what he wants, you know, like see what conditions he's gonna make and all that. But it's not like you don't feed that fear, you just start making that conversations and understanding, what do you want?
And
I already did it, but think about the psychology, why you did it. Like they're always trying to understand why they did it, so they can actually get the emotional part and see a weakness, right? So they're looking in a very fearful situation, they're looking for a weakness in the fear to then grow it and use it in their advantage.
And this is what often people do a lot, or they do the opposite, where they actually, like you mentioned, they feed the fear. So they add energy to a story of fear, and then it escalates, and then they go down this spiral of fear, of upset, of anxiety, and the emotions get stronger. So how you know, I know you speak with a fear, but do you ever still feed your fear sort of unconsciously?
Yes, absolutely. And the moment when I realize that I'm feeding my fear, I'm like, whoa, let me sit again and have that chat with the fear without feeding the fear. It's my choice to feed the fear or not, right? It's the way how you feed happiness, you feed love, you feed any kind of emotion. Fear is an emotion, right? But the moment when you realize it, you can detach yourself from the emotion, whatever it is, and then decide, do you want to double it, or you want to, you know, be like, I'm not feeding you anymore.
And sometimes it takes a conscious choice. It takes a conscious choice not to feed the fear, especially if there's been a program that has been running in the background for a number of years.
I'll tell you what I do. The moment when I realize that I don't feel, at that moment, I don't feel powerful enough to stop feeding that fear and to detach from the fear, what I do, I sit and I visualize that fear. I take that fear out of my system, of my body, and I give it to the universe. And I'm like, you deal with that. I don't know how to deal with that. Like the only thing right now, I feel that I cannot detach from that fear. So you know what? It's all yours, right? Sometimes it works. Sometimes it just keeps staying in my body. But then like several hours later, when I go and I check, I'm like, that is much, it shrinked or it disappeared, or it's much less than before that.
Yeah. So you're effectively the point where you don't know how to handle the fear, or you just surrender it to God, to a higher power, to your higher self, to the part of you that knows.
Yeah. Because so call it God, universe, it doesn't matter how you call it, right?
Yeah.
It lives in us. We are God, we are universe. It's part of us. We are part of it. We are one with everything. It doesn't need words. The only thing what it needs, like, to read your emotions, right? If my emotion right now is fear, you know the law of attraction, you attract fear, correct? So the moment when you consciously look at that fear and it's like, wait a minute, I'm not attaching even more fear, but you cannot detach yourself. It's like, you know what? You're like God and universe. You're part of me. I don't need that anymore. I don't want it, but I need that help from you to detach me and to totally solve the situation and, you know, and get rid of. So the only thing I do after this is just to look for signs. Like I speak with someone, that someone says something, I'm like, oh my God, this is a missing piece in my puzzle. Or like I have a thought to call someone without even knowing that why I need to call that person. I just make the call and then I realize why I need to make the call. So I just look for signs, like what is out there.
Okay. So what do you do now then? Like, you know, moving on with regards to just your career, because you said you went from entrepreneurship, you went from corporate life to entrepreneurship to healing. So
that's another letting go. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Every time when they say it, it's like, no, you know that very well. I don't know what I'm doing, but yes, I know very well what I'm doing. So I my last business was to coach people to become TEDx speakers. And I finished that business. I've been doing it for 2 years. It was like within 8 months, I make it in the top 10 best coaches in the world. It was freaking awesome, I can tell you. I mean, the feeling of being so successful in such a short period, obviously I worked my ass off for that, and following my intuition as well, I can tell you. And I had to follow my intuition and finish the business exactly when it was like blooming massively. People couldn't understand why on earth I'm doing such kind of craziness. And I closed it end of December 2022. Biggest fear again, back to that, like I don't have incomes. How on earth I'm gonna pay my bills? You know, everything is keep going. Obviously, they don't stop. And I had to open for few more clients for very little piece of work, which is related to TEDx SEO analytics, so I can pay my bills. But I am done with that fear of finishing that business and my love and attachment. I love that. I love doing that coaching, I can tell you. And it took me 1 year and 3 months after, in a meditation, I heard you need to stop doing that. Like, TEDx coaching business is not your long-term business, so you need to stop. And I was like, what? I love it. Why? It took me 1.5 years to let go.
I remember we had this conversation, and
Exactly.
I know when you had that moment and you let go.
Exactly. So now I'm in a position, I don't want to do that anymore. What happened since I closed it was like literally like falling and rolling in front of me, like rolling out in front of me. It was amazing. Out of nowhere, I received a gift to be initiated in Reiki level 1. Have in mind that I've been a healer with Dr. Joe Dispenza group since 2019, by the way, so a long time. That was like, why do I need that? The moment when that happened, people start coming to me because they wanted me to train them to be able to meditate. So I did 2 courses for meditations and training people from a very basic level how to meditate. Most probably I'm going to do more courses like this one. Do they pay, like, does the income from those courses pay my bills? No, not really. Did I figure out how I'm going to keep paying my bills? No, not really. So I don't know that part. But did I decide to do that energy work? And I have some kind of resistance towards these words, like, I'm going to do energy work. All of us are energy. Like, what does it mean doing energy work? But anyway, if I find better words, then I will do better words.
Bilyana, do you know what really comes to me when I'm speaking to you is your authenticity and honesty? Because I think the majority of people would find it very difficult to admit that, okay, I don't know how I'm going to pay the next bill.
It's
and I
true.
think that's great.
Yeah.
And I think it's because especially in our industry, in what we do, you know, we know people do struggle, you know, being coaches, being speakers, but it's very rarely said. It's very rarely expressed. But it's great that you have done so, and it's great that you're following your intuition.
Yeah. And do I know where my intuition is going to take me? Not really. Do I love doing, like those courses for meditation? Yes. But I don't want, meanwhile, I'm very well aware that I don't want people to attach brand in their mind, my name, with meditations, because yes, I can coach them how to do meditations, but that's like one, I feel it, and my intuition confirms it every time. Like teaching people how to do meditation is like one tiny piece of the whole puzzle, right? So honestly, at the moment, I just follow my intuition and the crumbs, and I know that's gonna start evolving. But I can give you one more example of what I'm doing. Like in the middle of a meeting, I had this download, literally, saying that I need to do a podcast, call it Dream Podcast. Dream as a verb, dream as a noun, and record, like invite people, and you are on that podcast, invite people. And literally I had all the questions I need to ask them, the whole structure of the podcast. Then it was like, what kind of questions you need to ask the audience, what kind of promise you need to ask the guest to do at the end of the show. It was all of it was a download, and it took me 3 weeks before I started doing it. And for 3 weeks was like, you need to do the podcast. Like I go in a meditation, first thing, you need to do the podcast. You need to do the podcast. Of course, me as a human, I'm busy and I need to do this today and that today and that today. And at some point I was like, wait a minute, like guys, all my angels and archangels, I'm a human. I need to pay bills. Like I love what you're doing. I adore that, and I'm in full power when I'm doing it. But at the end of the day, that doesn't bring me those money that I need to be able to pay the freaking bills.
Yep.
So you either give me any kind of incomes that is gonna totally pay my debts from the past because of another story and another letting go and another relationship from 2021, which put me in the financial debts and all that. But I was like, guys, like, I'm open. I'm ready to do and I am doing it. Like last week, I recorded 21 episodes of that podcast. It was hectic. I can tell at the end of the week, I was like, I just need to zip it, zip my mouth, don't speak for at least 2 days. And that's what I was doing now in the weekend, to Saturday and Sunday. I just couldn't speak because I was so tired. I'm all in. And I was like, if I'm all in, right? You guys, I need to be all in as well, because that life needs to basically be sorted. My life, I mean.
Yeah, that's the one thing I admire about you, Bilyana, is that when you say all in, you mean all in. Yeah, and you go full on, and that's the great thing. That's one of the many great things about you, and I'm really grateful for having known you for however many years it is. And listen, if anyone wants to reach you in the future, how do they do so?
I go on LinkedIn and add me on LinkedIn. Add me on Facebook is not my thing, honestly. So if you add me on Facebook, the chance to kind of see 3 months later is huge. So what I want you to do is LinkedIn, YouTube, my YouTube channels, and go and add me on WhatsApp. So my WhatsApp number is 0044 for UK, 7834 780121. Go and add me on WhatsApp and chat with me. WhatsApp,
and we'll have links
Telegram,
to all of your contact details below this podcast. And thank you so much for coming and for sharing your insight, your wisdom, and for being on the very first Clear Our Path podcast.
I am so happy I'm the first guest on your podcast. Honestly, it means a lot. Like my whole journey, if it helps someone, then yes, absolutely.
I'm sure it will.
I'll share it.
All right. Thank you so much, Bilyana.
Big hug and big kiss to you, my dear. And all of you listening right now, have an amazing and wonderful, lovely day or evening ahead.
Yeah. And for everyone else, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you in the next one.